The phrase "spare a scrap, sir," seems simple, even humble on the surface, but beneath it lies a world of silent suffering, unspoken courage, and the quiet strength of a soul that refuses to be completely broken. When a person in need asks, not for wealth, not for pity, not even for a fresh meal, but for scraps leftovers discarded by others, it reflects not only desperation, but also a deep, enduring sense of restraint and humility. It is a request that places no burden on the giver, and yet it carries the weight of 1,000 untold stories. Imagine a young woman, perhaps in her early 20s, standing at the corner of a bustling street where wealth and power brush past her without a glance. Her clothes are worn but clean. Her hands, though weathered, are neatly folded. She does not shout or beg with outstretched arms. Instead, she stands silently near the side door of a luxurious restaurant, watching people come and go with plates, half-eaten conversations loud with laughter, and minds far from hunger. She doesn't see herself as less than those people. She doesn't carry herself with shame. That's the part many miss. While the world might label her homeless, impoverished, invisible, she carries an invisible armor of dignity. She isn't there to provoke guilt. She isn't there to manipulate anyone's sympathy. She is simply hungry, and hunger doesn't care about pride, but she still does. That is human dignity at its most powerful, when it survives, even in the face of necessity. Her request, "Spare a scrap, sir," is made to a man who is not used to being asked for anything. He's a millionaire. He's been surrounded all his life by those who want something from him: deals, favors, access. But this is different. She doesn't ask for his money, his time, or even his attention. Just something he was about to throw away. She makes no assumptions. There's no accusation in her voice, no resentment in her tone, just quiet hope. And it is in that moment, when their eyes meet, that something shifts. Her eyes are not pleading, in the usual way he expects from someone desperate. Instead, they hold a calm resilience. They are tired, yes, but not hollow. They hold stories he cannot hear, struggles he cannot imagine, and a kind of strength he has never had to possess. He's seen people with money cry over stock losses, people with connections break down over trivial inconveniences, but never has he seen someone and so little possess so much grace. The dignity in her desperation unsettles him not because it makes him feel guilty, but because it reveals a crack in the illusion he has built around himself. For years, he's told himself that poverty was often the result of poor choices, laziness, or lack of effort. But here, in front of him, is a young woman who seems more composed than the board members he argued with last week. Her presence is not just inconvenience, it's undeniable. He begins to wonder, who is she? What brought her here? Was she once a student, a dreamer, someone who loved poetry, music, or science? Does she still dream? And if so, what keeps her going? These are questions he never had to ask before. He has spent his life surrounded by convenience food delivered, cars waiting, meetings scheduled. He has never once had to ask for a scrap of anything, and yet, now he is faced with someone whose entire existence revolves around waiting for what others no longer want. But this isn't just about wealth or lack thereof. This moment exposes something deeper, how society ranks human worth. The woman, by all material standards, is at the bottom. Yet there's something in her, the way she doesn't avert her gaze, the way she speaks with clarity, the way she holds herself, that suggests a different kind of wealth. One not measured in bank accounts, but in spirit. To live with dignity, while being unseen by the world, is a rare strength. She has probably been ignored 1,000 times. Watched people walk past without a second glance. Maybe even been insulted, judged, pitied. But she still gets up each day and tries again, not because she believes someone will rescue her, but because her will is stronger than her circumstances. And that is where the heart of the story lives. Dignity in desperation is not just about manners or politeness. It's about maintaining one's humanity in situations designed to strip it away. Hunger, homelessness, exclusion. These are forces that not only challenge the body, but wear down the soul. To keep smiling, to speak gently, to ask without demanding, are not signs of weakness, but profound inner strength. It takes effort to remain kind when the world is cruel. It takes discipline to avoid bitterness when all doors are closed. And it takes courage to still believe in people when most of them pretend you don't exist. That's what the millionaire sees in her eyes. Not a beggar, not a statistic, not a case for charity, but a person fully present, quietly resilient, and fiercely human. And in seeing her as she truly is, he begins to see himself more clearly as well. All his achievements, his status, his reputation, they've built a fortress around him. But what kind of man is he if he's never looked outside that fortress? In that single moment of exchange, something profound happens. He doesn't just hand her a boxed meal or throw money into a cup. He asks her name. He listens. And through that, the walls begin to fall, not just around him, but around how he's viewed the world. Because her dignity reminds him of something he had long forgotten that all people regardless of where they sleep at night deserve to be seen, not just helped, not just rescued, but seen. And when you truly see someone, when you allow their humanity to reach you, it becomes impossible to walk away unchanged. Asterisk, that's the miracle in the moment, not one of magic or divine intervention, but a miracle of the human spirit that it can endure, that it can shine even in the darkest places, and that it can wake others up just by standing its ground. Her request wasn't just for food, it was for recognition, and that made all the difference. Asterisk. Redemption does not always come through grand gestures or public declarations. Sometimes, it begins in the silence between two people the moment one person truly sees another, not for what they appear to be, but for what they are underneath. For the millionaire in this story, a man whose life has been defined by transactions, numbers, efficiency, and performance, that moment arrives unexpectedly. He is not actively seeking change. He believes his life is full, well-managed, and even enviable. But beneath the surface, there is a subtle erosion of meaning, something he hasn't noticed or dared to confront. Asterisk, he has spent his years accumulating wealth, status, and influence. He is used to being respected, obeyed, and catered to. His mornings are filled with meetings, his evenings with exclusive dinners, and his nights with curated solitude. He has never had to think about survival. The streets he walks on are clean and distant from the reality others live in. If he encounters poverty, it is through headlines or charitable events where he signs large checks and takes photos. He believes he is doing enough. More than enough. And perhaps he is. On paper. Asterisk, but when the girl approaches him not with demands, not with bitterness, but with a simple, human request, it touches something he thought he'd left behind long ago. She doesn't know who he is. She doesn't care about his net worth or the company he runs. She just sees a man with food and asks, with startling gentleness, if she might have what he no longer needs. Her request is not dramatic. There is no manipulation, no performance. Just honesty and quiet hope. Asterisk, at first, he reacts the way he's conditioned to. Politely distant, he nods, says something vague, and prepares to move on. But her eyes meet his, and in that brief connection, something begins to unravel. He sees not just hunger, but awareness. She knows how she must look to him in interruption, a deviation from his routine. But she stands there anyway, as if offering him a chance to act differently. Her gaze is calm, not desperate, and that unsettles him far more than any visible suffering could. Asterisk, what happens next is not a decision, it is a surrender. Something in him lets go. He stops pretending, stops moving, stops insulating himself with the invisible armor of wealth. And in that pause, he starts to feel again. Really feel. The girl becomes more than a figure on the street. She becomes a mirror. Asterisk, she reminds him of what he once wanted to be before success dulled his edges. He remembers being young, driven, not just by profit, but by purpose. He remembers late nights filled with dreams, not deadlines. Somewhere along the way, he buried that version of himself under layers of expectation, ambition, and self-protection. He learned to manage, to delegate, to lead, but he forgot how to be moved. He forgot how to look people in the eye without calculating what they wanted from him. Asterisk, this girl, with nothing in her hands and everything in her gaze, gives him that gift. She offers no promise, no exchange. She doesn't even expect him to say yes. She simply gives him a choice, perhaps the first real choice he's had in years that doesn't involve contracts, percentages, or projections. A choice to see or to look away. Asterisk, when he does see her, fully, the walls inside begin to shift. He begins to question things he once took for granted. Why does this girl have to ask for scraps in a city overflowing with waste? How many people, like her, pass him every day unnoticed? How did he become so numb to others? These are not questions of guilt, they are questions of awakening. And with awakening comes discomfort, but also potential. The potential to become someone else, someone better, someone more human. Asterisk, he speaks to her not as a benefactor, not as a savior, but as a man, unsure of what to say. He stumbles over his words, uncertain and vulnerable for the first time in years. And she listens. She doesn't rush him or try to impress him. She answers simply, openly. Her story is not filled with drama. It is quiet and painful. A series of misfortunes, bad luck, and moments where the world simply stopped caring. She was not always on the street. She had dreams, once, a family, a plan. But life is not linear, and sometimes it takes everything before you realize what's left is still worth saving. Asterisk, as she speaks, he feels the weight of something long buried. Regret, not for what he did, but for what he didn't do. For the people he passed, for the moments he missed. For the voice inside him that he ignored because it was inconvenient. And then, as she finishes, there is silence. Not the awkward kind, but the heavy, honest silence that comes when two people have nothing more to hide. Asterisk, it is in this moment that redemption begins. Not as a sweeping change or a vow to save the world, but as a seed. He feels it take root in his testa, need not to fix her, but to fix the part of himself that could have walked away. He doesn't offer her money, not yet. He offers something more dangerous. Attention, real attention. He asks what she needs beyond this moment, what she wants, where she sleeps, what she dreams of now. Redemption, for him, is not about heroism. It is about intimacy with truth, about allowing himself to feel again, to stop operating at a distance. He understands that helping her won't erase the years he spent detached, but it will begin to chip away at the apathy. He also realizes that redemption is not about becoming someone else, but about remembering who he was before the world told him to harden. The path forward isn't clear, and that's okay. What matters is that he takes a step, that he doesn't look away this time. Her dignity calls to his buried empathy, and in responding to her not as a problem to solve, but as a person to meet, he begins to reassemble himself. Not with money or power, but with vulnerability. The kind of vulnerability that demands presence, that demands honesty, that says, I see you, and because I see you, I cannot remain unchanged. Redemption through compassion is not a transaction, it is not a rescue, it is recognition. Recognition that beneath every hardened heart is a soft one waiting to be moved. Recognition that every act of seeing, truly seeing, has the power to bring us back to ourselves. And in that, the miracle is not only hers, it is his too.